Are You Really Going to Eat That? Podcast episode 108. So how is everyone this week? Are you looking forward to autumn and winter? Are you embracing that change of seasons? You know that I love that changing in season, and I get really excited about doing my seasonal episodes. And this one is for sort of autumn, and we're just sort of coming into that end, like sort of beginning of autumn, not quite winter yet. So still lots of wonderful fruits and vegetable available. And it basically is the harvest season. So I remember as a kid, when I was thinking about this, recording this episode, I remember as a kid, harvest festival at school. And I didn't really understand what it was. And I vaguely remember having some kind of a display. I think it might have been on the stage at school or maybe church. We didn't really go to church. So I think it must have been at the stage at school with like a bit of pumpkins. And I remember bringing something in that signified the season. I can't really remember what that was, but maybe an apple or something. And and I remember walking to school with all the lovely leaves and things. But actually, Harvest Festival there is a specific date for which I didn't realise. So it's the Sunday that is nearest the harvest moon, and the harvest moon this year is Thursday, the 30th of September. So Harvest Festival will have been on Sunday, the 3rd of October. And it is a real time for celebration. And, kind of traditionally, it would have been really important what we were able to harvest. And it was a time of, plenty, but also thinking about, how would we store these vegetables and fruits, or how would we preserve them? Because this is our supply over winter, because obviously not a lot grows. And there are things that grow in winter, but this is our last chance to kind of get that bounty ready for those winter months, for the times when we've got less available. I want to just give a shout out to Joanne at The Foodies. And if you go back and listen to episode 84, that was a great interview. Absolutely loved interviewing her. And if you go to her website, The Foodies, then she has resources there where she tells you what's seasonal in each month. And actually, I did that. I used that to do some of the research for today. So Joanne, thank you for the great podcast. Go back and listen, hillstart.me.uk/84 to her episode, and pop onto a website if you want to know what's seasonal. So let's think about some vegetables first. So, we still have, sort of leaves and stuff growing. Like I still have a rocket growing in my garden. Actually, I've got rocket that overwintered. It's the hardiest rocket ever. I don't know if it'll do it again this year, but it is the pepperest rocket I have ever tasted. And it's got a real lovely crunch to it. So for years, I've been used to eating rocket from the supermarket or the farm shop that comes in a bag, and it's quite soft. But my rocket's quite crunchy and is so hot because it's hard rocket, it's had to toughen up for the environment. And this is the thing with fruits and vegetables is, a reminder that if you are having fruit and vegetable that's had to grow properly, had to, toughen itself up and stuff, that's where you get all that lovely flavour from. If they've been mollycoddled and grown in a polytunnel and had, loads of pesticides and a nice heater on for them and stuff, they ain't as tough and they aren't going to have as much flavour. So rocket isn't peppery for us. Rocket is peppery to kind of protect itself. So that's why mine is really great. And you can have rocket and spinach kind of right up really until sort of, the real cold snap. So if you have got a bit of space in your garden, if you are growing any sort of fruits and vegetables, sow a bit of rocket and spinach. Now, Monty said last week, I think on Garden as well, that you could still put a bit of spinach in and it'd probably be okay, or maybe buy some plugs from the local garden centre. But I have to say spinach and rocket are those ones that I use in the house all the time, pretty much any time of years. I've even still got a little bit of tomatoes left. I am going to take them off the vine now and ripen them on the windowsill if I possibly can. And if not, I might see if I can make some green tomato chutney. So what is new? What am I going to get excited about now? And of course, it's the winter greens and the root vegetables. That's my big thing. So yes, butternut squash is in season at the moment. All those squashes are in season and they are fabulous. They are great. But for me, it's things like celeriac and kale and cabbage. I am such a big fan of celeriac. So I love it. And you can eat it raw, you can eat it mashed, you can have it roasted. So kind of think about it as a bit of a replacement potato, but it's really lovely raw as well. So if you're a member of my Fabulous and Female group, then you will have had a recipe a couple of weeks ago that was for a celeriac slaw, and it has red onion in it and some pomegranate and some herbs in it, and it is absolutely delicious. So do embrace celeriac. Have a Google if you aren't in my group, and if you aren't in my group, why aren't you? If you're female and you're fabulous, you need to be in there. Go to fabfemale.co.uk and join up now, and you'll get that recipe. There's about 160 recipes in the back catalogue, so it's, there's so many, plenty of celeriac because I want it. I love it, absolutely love it. But if you're not, just give it a bit of a Google and find some recipes. So kind of treat it a bit like a potato. So that's how I think you could do it as an intro level. And you can easily kind of do half and half. So if you're not sure, or if you're not sure if the family's going to like it, then do kind of half potato, like with the mashed topping. I love it on things like cottage pie and shepherd's pie. And you could kind of go for like a mixture of potato and celeriac mash to kind of break them in easy. See, things like cottage pie, that's winter food, isn't it? That lovely autumnal food, soups, beautiful soups. That's what I do with a lot of my butternut squash, to be honest, is make soups. And I do love it when the seasons change and we get those lovely warm kind of wintry kind of veg. And I'm looking forward to those brassicas later on. So, the Brussels sprouts, famous Brussels sprouts, but they're not ready yet. So kind of at the moment, you're going to get your sort of your early cabbages and your squashes and your kale and your celeriac. So I think for me, the autumn season really is about those fruits, isn't it? So blackberries, probably just about finished now. You might find a few on some bushes, but if you haven't been out to pick them, then you might have just missed it. But blackberries, yeah, they are definitely that change in autumn. As soon as the blackberries start to go black, ripen, then that for me is like, yeah, autumn is coming. It's signifying the end of that summer season. Now, apples and pears. We have amazing apples and pears in Britain, and they are beautifully ready now. Now, pears don't store as well as apples. So I would say if you've got some pears, eat them now, or maybe preserve them, poach them, and preserve them in some poaching liquor would be beautiful, wouldn't it, on Christmas Day? If you had some lovely poached pears that you'd made from sort of October time, how nice would that be? So definitely pears need to be eaten sort of fairly quickly. They don't store as well. But apples, if you store them right, will store all winter. And you should be able to find British apples all year round pretty much in the shop. So always have a look for that, because we do grow amazing apples. And I think often when I see them from other countries, I'm like, well, why? We have the best here. And yeah, actually, I'm thinking wintertime, sort of like things like apple crumbles and apple pies, blackberry and apple pies. We used to have an apple tree in one of the houses where we lived. And I was so excited when we moved in and we had this really substantial apple tree. And then the first year we had so many apples, I did not know what to do with them. And my lovely next door neighbour kind of knocked the door and brought us around a pie, which was really lovely of them. And she said, I don't, it's entirely up to you, and I don't kind of want to push things, but what we used to do with the old neighbour is they used to give us some apples, and we used to make blackberry and apple pies, and we'd obviously gift you back a blackberry and apple pie. And, does that sound? I was like, yes, please. So they used to come round and pick loads of the apples, because there was so many, they'd just be, so they come round, pick the apples, and then we'd get blackberry and apple pie in return, which was fantastic. I think it was a great deal. So definitely go for that. And I have planted this year I've planted a nectarine. I don't know if that's going to live, but I've also planted a pear tree and a big metal dustbin in the garden. So I'm hoping, you never know, next autumn podcast episode, I might be saying that I've got some pears on my own tree. So that would be amazing. Now, and also, I think we need to think about what might be further afield. So it's not always a case of, we shouldn't have foods grown, in the UK. Diversity is great. And we have that available to us, for many, many years. I remember my mom telling me about when they used to get pomegranates at Christmas time. It was a real treat. And they used to sit with a little pin and pick the little seeds out of the pomegranate. She said, and we maybe had it once a year or twice a year, but she remembers that as one of her lovely childhood memories. Pomegranates are a little bit later, the kind of Christmas time. But at the moment, if we're looking further afield, figs. Now there are British figs available. We haven't had a great season. My local farm shop, they have a wall full of fig trees. And a couple of years ago, they were just like, we don't know what to do with them. We've had so many. But this year, it's not been a good year for figs. So if you see them in the farm shops, they may well be imported, but they are beautiful, really, really lovely. So if you see them, definitely embrace the figs, and kind of talk to the farm shops. I always think this is really important. Talk to the farm shops, talk to your local market, and ask them, where has that produce come from? Don't be afraid of asking where it has come from. And things like fennel and figs may well have come from the UK. So fennel and figs are those other autumnal fruits and vegetables that we can have that may or may not have been in the UK, but still they are seasonal in other parts of Europe and definitely to be enjoyed when they are available. So there we go. So there's some of my wonderful sort of seasonal goodies that are around now. So this is just the autumn one. I'll be back in the winter for a winter episode. So this beautiful change in scenery in seasons where I think that autumn is one of those ones where it's different every year. This time of year, that autumn season depends how hot the summer's been, depends how quickly it gets cold. I think we haven't had the best summer. It's been very dry. It now seems to be quite cold and wet very quickly. And I think we'll have quite a short autumn and possibly a longer winter because of it. So that autumn is kicking in. And I'd love to know what your sort of seasonal stars are, what you love to eat. So do remember to give me a tag. Let me know how much you like this podcast episode, and tag me in. Let me know what you're cooking this time of year. If you've got time, then going on and leave me a review would be amazing. Helps other people find the podcast. So if you do have time, pop over and give me a review. Join me next week when I am talking to the lovely Marcel Rose about disordered eating, I suppose is the best way to describe it. So a fabulous podcast interview. Join me next week. That's it for this week. All I need to ask you is, what have you got for tea?